Welcome to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wilkins. I'm excited to have you join me as I speak with a fascinating collection of folks, all of whom have in common that they've made a way for themselves by finding an intersection between thoughtful consideration and the tactile work of getting their hands dirty. This is an examination of intention, capability, and craft. It's where philosophy meets the blue-collar work ethic and where I find real value. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. This episode is being released on November 15th, 2022, which means it's coming out 4 days before the start of Arkansas duck season. It seemed an appropriate time to have one Luke Naylor as the guest on the podcast. Luke, for a long time, like 16 years, I believe, he was in charge of the waterfowl program in Arkansas, working for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. And about 4 months ago, he was promoted to the very important position of being in head of the Wildlife Division, which means that he's one of the big kahunas over at the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. And honestly, this is the first time I met Luke, but seems very well suited towards the task. Obviously, is very invested in wildlife in the natural state. And man, we have a pretty wide-ranging conversation talking about a few things, not a few things, I would say almost everything involving waterfowl, specifically in Arkansas, is going to be controversial to somebody. It's just a pursuit that people have very strongly held beliefs about. I've talked about this a little bit before when I did very waterfowl-centric podcasts, but we talk about some of the real-life experiences of waterfowling. I mean, ultimately, it has been a transformative experience for me, learning to hunt ducks and geese in Arkansas, primarily in Arkansas. I've hunted ducks a few other places, but 98% of it has been in Arkansas. It's like something that changed the tenor of my life and the direction of my life. But we kind of started talking about some of the things that are challenging when it comes to waterfowling. And, hopefully it doesn't come off as a gripe fest, but I think it's a really important conversation to have, because especially when you're dealing with waterfowl, something that by its very nature is here one day and gone the next day. That's something that moves across such vast stretches. Managing that as a natural resource requires flexibility and malleability, being willing to change with the times and with the best information that you have at the time, in the hopes of ultimately, I want to be able to hunt ducks and geese, for the rest of my life, hopefully, and I want my kids to be able to do it and their kids. But more than that, I want there to be healthy numbers of ducks and geese that then ultimately I want to be able to hunt. So I think always keeping the animals and the resource at the forefront of our motivations for our management strategies, however that presents itself, is obviously best case scenario. So instead of rambling on any longer, I will just encourage you to listen to and hopefully get the most out of this conversation with Luke Naylor. Thanks so much. Hey folks, welcome back to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. This morning, early morning, I am at Arkansas Game and Fish Commission headquarters here in Little Rock, Arkansas, and Luke Naylor, the waterfowl kingpin of Arkansas. That's not your actual official title. It's waterfowl program coordinator.
It was until about 4 months ago, and now I'm the wildlife management division chief. But I'm still the waterfowl guy for 16 years here, and we got a replacement coming in the first of the year, so I'm kind of doing both jobs Maybe not quite as effectively as I should right
Yeah,
now.
let's say you're
but
doing double duty.
I am doing double duty right now, going into duck season, still handling the waterfowl program coordinator duties while trying to, figure out all the wildlife management division chief stuff too. So been a little transition time right here, and it's been good, but I'm ready for a new guy to come in and take the reins for sure.
Yeah, and so, I mean, just Arkansas housekeeping, there was kind of like so we got a new director, right?
That's right.
And then the position under him kind of split to two positions, right?
Yeah, we've had kind of several variations on our directorate and how it's organized. We've had a director, we've had 2, 3, 4 deputy directors, then we've had a deputy director that serves as the chief of staff. That's all kind of been not recast, but kind of reestablished. Like, okay, we've got a director now, we have a chief of staff, and we have 3 deputy directors, and so that seems to be the model moving forward that we kind of had wanted to be in. But we'd had some transitions there with people coming and going from those deputy director positions. Had one kind of stay vacant for a while. Anyway, all that said, yeah, we've had a director for over a year now, pushing a year and a half, I guess, here, first of the year. And then chief of staff, and had a deputy director position open. They actually promoted both the fisheries chief and the wildlife chief.
Yeah.
To that position, Ben Batten and Brad Corner. And so that opened up the fisheries and wildlife management division's chief positions. And so I filled the wildlife management one, and Jason Olive is over on the fisheries side just since really about the first week of June.
Right on, man. Yeah, that's we're big fans of Ben Batten on this podcast.
He's okay.
I've known him for a long time.
Yeah. He's all right.
He's also from like right across the Mississippi River from me. So he likes the Cardinals. He likes pork steaks.
Got it.
All that kind of stuff. Anyway, well, so, I mean, and look, wildlife director, that's like a big job. Like there's
a lot going on.
Yeah, that's a move from, like just banding, not just, but like, when you enter into this kind of career path and you're a biologist coming out of college. Because, I mean, really, waterfowl coordinator for the state of Arkansas that's got to be a coveted position, right?
Coveted is the word we think should be applied to it. It's kind of interesting these days. That's probably a whole nother discussion about what wildlife students are doing these days and where they're going, what positions they're taking. There's a lot of us kind of struggling through that right now. Like, where are these folks that are in college getting wildlife degrees, even specifically studying waterfowl? Where are they going? Because they're not really seeking out these type of jobs in mass. It's kind of an interesting time.
What type of jobs?
Like waterfowl specialist for state agency, or even a waterfowl specialist within the Fish and Wildlife Service. It's kind of a different era. I don't fall back into these old tropes of like, back in my day type stuff. But because there were lots of people doing lots of different things, different career paths coming out of college back when I was coming out quite a while ago now. But yeah, these positions as state waterfowl biologists they're really good jobs, and that's not just blowing smoke, trying to prop up our agency or that position. I truly enjoyed what I did in that position for 16 years, and I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. And we got a good person coming in to take the job the first of the year, so that'll be great. But frankly, a lot of these folks we're having a hard time finding folks who want to serve these roles in state agencies. There's probably a lot of reasons for that, but the Arkansas waterfowl biologist job, I've always said it is a great position. You have, as long as you're able to kind of compartmentalize the negativity that sometimes comes with it.
Yeah.
And I'll just say that and not get any more details maybe, but I've always enjoyed working on waterfowl in Arkansas because there's passion. People care about it. You could go to some place and maybe have a little bit easier day-to-day life if people weren't passionate about the resource you were managing. But I think it'd get kind of boring, really. But here, that's not an option. There's 100,000 people who are passionate about waterfowl. You're always going to have something to do. You're always going to have somebody saying you're not doing it right. And you're going to have people, patting you on the back for doing good things too. So I think that I think that passion in this state makes this job really valuable, and a really rewarding position. So, man, now I've got to turn on brain muscles that have been like not atrophied or not sitting idle, but now thinking about all sorts of other wildlife resources throughout the state other than just waterfowl and wetlands. So it's good. It's a big career step for a biologist. I don't know too many wildlife biologists who went through and said, yeah, my career goal is to eventually become an administrator. Most of us don't think that way when we're getting into this field. So it is kind of a big step to take that leap, but it's a good one too. I think we got a lot of opportunities here, man. Our directorate is solid. Our rate of change right now is as high as even the older timers than me have really ever seen it. There's a lot of good things happening in our agency, and so it's a good time to be in a leadership position to help that stuff happen.
Yeah, I mean, so translation is you got the target off your back a little bit, which is, I'm having a little bit of fun, but look, I've often described, and it's something that I didn't realize until I started interacting with people that hunted other places, or specifically waterfowl. But there's a pugilism to waterfowling in Arkansas. Like I was hunting the other day, and a dude had like one of these tumbler, Yeti cups or whatever, and had a sticker on it that said "Season of Hate," which is it's not the first time I've heard it, man. It does kind of bum me out because it's hard to be a waterfowler in Arkansas without, there's a hell, now I'm trying to be political with it. There's kind of a toughness. There's a defensiveness you end up developing as a waterfowler. I've been very involved with organizations like backcountry hunters and anglers, and that was always a thing. It was like a moral dilemma for me. Like, I'm in this public lands advocacy group, but I absolutely don't want you to know where my duck holes are.
Oh yeah.
And I'm kind of suspicious about who I expose that to or who I share that knowledge with. And I understand that if someone shares that knowledge with me, that, there's sacredness is probably a bit of hyperbole, but there's something special about that, But also wildlife director, I don't know if you would quite call it like a bureaucratic position, but you're definitely out of the field, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, not to keep name dropping them, but I remember when Ben moved from being a biologist to being fisheries director, you could tell he felt an added responsibility.
Yeah.
His position had definitely changed. But also his ability for sphere of influence, and making some long-standing changes. And what you're talking about, game and fish, I don't know, sometimes it's kind of popular to be a enforcement agency hater as far as wildlife is concerned. And honestly, I've never had a beef with the Game and Fish Commission. I've got opinions on how things could be done that would benefit me, but really, dude, the rules are pretty lenient in Arkansas.
Yeah.
It's actually disturbingly inexpensive, and I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I think license rates should be, you don't have to get in any of the dangerous stuff, but I think license rates are abysmally low. I think that I know that there's not enough money coming in to support all the infrastructure the agency has, and I'm interested in maintaining good quality places to hunt and fish and recreate. And so I feel like, if every year you got to pay an extra $1 to get a resident license to kill 6 deer and 2 turkeys and a gator and a bear and possibly an elk or whatever. But anyway, let's talk, even though you're in this new position and you're over wildlife. So that means pretty much everything except the fully aquatic stuff, right?
Correct.
So that's, you went from specializing in basically the waterfowl of the Mississippi Flyway to larger mammalian species, right? Stuff that's crawling all over, things that reside strictly here in Arkansas, and they're not part of that, really international migration. But ducks in Arkansas, I think people they think Arkansas, they think ducks with good reason. I think if you start looking at the numbers and the research, it makes a lot of sense to really start thinking about Arkansas as far as geese, the last 10, 15 years, speckle-bellied geese, which I spent a lot of time pursuing, snows and Rosses. And I'd even argue up until the last couple of years, it seems like about 2 years ago, everybody figured out that they should, that specks were something they could chase, right? There was kind of people that specialized in it. I got into it a few years ahead of the curve because other people didn't see value in it. And people are so protective in this state around duck hunting that kind of the angle I could get myself into it was specks.
Yep.
And then kind of rough season, and then another rough season, and people were, had these traditional like rice field leases, maybe weren't seeing the ducks they were used to, but man, they saw specks all the time.
Couple dry years.
Yeah.
Couple dry falls, like we're about into our, second in a row for sure, maybe more than that, depending on where you are precisely. But yeah, those dry years, and, the geese are here. They're a little bit more, we know lots of things. We know, we don't know many more things about waterfowl migration. I mean, it just continues to fascinate me personally and professionally. What's going on and why waterfowl migrate when they do and why they don't when they don't. But geese seem to be just a little bit more, photo period driven, kind of reliable, right? The speckle bellies are coming to the Delta right about Halloween, and for the past decade or so, like you mentioned, and that's gonna happen. Like that, there's almost, you can pretty much set your calendar to it that the geese are going to come here. Not all of them, but there's going to be a big wave of specks in the state by the end of October. Ducks, a little bit more flexible in when they're going to be hanging around. Although we do still have some of these key time periods where mallards are coming to this state. That still happens. But I think you add all that up, right? More white fronts, some dry years where duck hunting was a little bit tougher. People just didn't have water where they hunted, either on public or private land. And I think, folks' willingness to allow hunters on their property to go goose hunting, maybe an odd bean field here or there that they weren't going to lease out for a duck hunter anyway that year. I think it all kind of came together, like you mentioned, that was your entry to kind of get your foot in the door for waterfowling. And I think a lot of people took advantage of that. Last couple years, it's really ramped up. And when you can get up and go hunting in tennis shoes, never get wet, there's a reason people have been field goose hunting for a long time all across the country. It's actually, in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of low impact. Like it's pretty low effort compared to, it's not no effort, but it's a little bit lower effort than having to, launch a boat at 3:30 in the morning and run for 10 miles and find some ducks in flooded timber, right? So it's ramped up. I've talked with, folks selling decoys and stuff around here the last several years, and they can definitely, that's your best place to go look for patterns in waterfowl hunting behavior, right? What are they selling at max?
Yeah, for sure.
And the goose stuff has gone off the charts.
Yeah, people. I mean, and everybody. I was in a goose blind on this past Saturday and Sunday. So today's the day after the primaries. So just this past weekend, I was hunting both days. The second day, ended up kind of doing this. To get to hunt it, the farmer's boy and his buddies had to come, kind of deal, right? And 3 out of 4 of those dudes had R&T bar bellies, right? Like green and red. I mean, it was just, just the way it goes. Like something gets kind of in style or whatever. And best I could tell, one of them could call, and I mean, really didn't did pretty good. And I would say, I don't know this guy's name or anything, but I would say too, what I noticed, because my first inclination was to be irritated he was calling. But he didn't try and get on top, which is like, that's a big thing, right? He didn't try and call on top of guys that were just more experienced and knew what they were doing more, right? He added to it. So like I actually thought that he ended up being like a benefit to the calling as opposed to just wanting to like yodel all over. Like he kept his thing 50% of the decibel rating, right? So it was just adding that background. He clucked when he was supposed to. I mean, he was like buzzing. Like seriously, I wish I knew the kid's name because he was. And I'm calling him a kid, man, because, I mean, this dude was young, man. Dude was young. He looked like he had after he left, I was like, man, that kid looks so young. He looked like he had a glue-on mustache. But, yeah, man, just like no one even understood 3, 4, 5 years ago. People didn't understand it was a completely different presentation of air, right? Like probably a lot of people that were really seasoned waterfowlers in Arkansas had never seen like a goose called gut setup, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and now, and I would say, and I feel like I said this a couple of years ago, but I was like, man, these specs are about to get harder, and they're getting harder. They're just seeing a lot, you know. And then for last couple of years, there was everybody had silhouettes, right? Mm-hmm. And so something that was very different for a minute, just like when Mojos came out or whatever else, like they start seeing it all over. When I first started hunting them, we were laying out in whites. And then kind of, I mean, that's a drag on you. You know, a season of that, it wears you out, right? Laying in chocolate milk. And then people start moving to A-frames. And then everybody is hunting out of A-frames. And I'm almost of a mind that it might be time to start going back to laying out in the field a little bit more. Also, just for me personally, it's less claustrophobic. I've never been a fan of like pit blinds. It's always like, oh, we got to hunt out of a pit blind. I like being able to see. I like being able to look around, peripheral vision and stuff. And you know, that's like a whole new skill set too, which is being able to acquire the target just on the call to pop up. You know, that it's a weird deal. But I'll tell you what I'd really like to broach with you. And I feel like I've waxed on and on about it, and you know, I don't want to do like kind of the cliched questions like, man, just like, what is it about hunting the timber? Because if you've done it, you understand that it's special. It's I don't know, like, why do you love your kids or your grandma or something? It's a hard thing to quantify into the English language, but suffice it to say is that that's probably what most waterfowlers have in common. Like if you took individual waterfowlers and you took them away from the influence of their friends or their community or their club or whatever, I'm talking about people that actually are invested in this. In Arkansas, they all get that there's something special about that, right? I wonder, and without going into, again, some of the tropes, there is something distinctly different about waterfowling in Arkansas. It's there's a ton of romance and there's a ton of tradition. There's a ton of kind of underdog pride. I feel like I feel like Arkansas is a place that kind of has a chip on its shoulder. Like most people outside Arkansas don't think about Arkansas,
unless you're a duck hunter.
Right. But I mean, and a lot of folks, if they know something about Arkansas, it's Bill Clinton and it's maybe ducks, right?
Correct.
And I think it's something that the state as a whole and the hunting populace kind of prides itself on. I kind of pride myself on that, you know, a middle-of-the-road duck hunter, public land duck hunter in Arkansas is a really, I mean, comparatively, is a very high-level duck hunter.
High end.
You know, I hunted this fancy marsh in California last year, and it was me and this buddy of mine from Mississippi that, you know, grew up hunting Mississippi and coming to Arkansas hunting. And man, you know, the hunting style was totally different. It was like these kind of little mounded up blinds in this marshland, the Susan Marsh, and man, cool looking place. I mean, huge flocks of widgeons and pintails and stuff flying around. But if I'm going to be honest with you, it was kind of, I'll just say, it was a little unfulfilling. The hunting was a little unfulfilling because those birds don't work. That's a pass shooting game. The only birds you could break with a call were shovelers. And so I would prefer to shoot those. And I'm not a spoony hater, but like I would prefer to shoot those because like and they turned, you know what I mean? And they worked four corners. Yeah. But and normally I don't talk this much on podcasts, but as I understand it, you're not from Arkansas originally.
I'm not. I'm a Kansas Prairie kid.
So, Kansas has fantastic duck hunting right now.
Yeah.
But from your perspective as a person who is passionate enough about waterfowl to base your career around it, right? Someone who came from somewhere else to this, if not coveted, incredibly unique and special position as a waterfowl coordinator. What do you think we get right about waterfowling, duck hunting in Arkansas, and where do you think we're missing it?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, the passion for it, right? The people, the unashamed, forward-facing passion for waterfowl hunting is something that is unique here. I've told the story before. My dad coming in from Kansas and coming to visit, and he bought a camouflage boat years ago, and he hunted a few of the reservoirs. I grew up in a little small town just north of Wichita, and he lives in Wichita now, and bought a boat, hunted some reservoirs around there, and this was 20 years ago, and pretty unique actually to be driving a camouflage boat around.
Yeah,
in
1548
Kansas.
or something.
Oh yeah, and so it was, and then he comes down here when we move to Arkansas and comes down here and starts hunting, and it's like, I mean, there's nothing special about a camo boat and a black dog at all. I mean, they're everywhere, right? And I think and I spent 6 years in California. Went out there for graduate school, stayed and worked there, worked in a bunch of those marshes, less so in the Suisun Marsh, out in the bay, more so in the Central Valley. But got to experience that whole duck hunting culture out there as well, which fewer people realize that California has anything to do with duck hunting, but they
kill more ducks than anybody.
Yeah, it's got a rich tradition of duck hunting and a lot of different ecoregions out there too, like the bays, in the Central Valley.
That's that Central Valley when you land in
Sacramento.
And then you drive across.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I told a buddy, man, like I got emotional, like seeing that many birds right there, because it's been hard to see that driving around Arkansas the last while, and it is something special.
Well, they're all in one spot. It's like 50 miles wide and 150 miles long. They're all there. Like, so all the ducks are coming to that spot. So you're gonna see them. A lot of cool stuff there. So got to experience that where you almost, it's not really cool to show your camo and your duck dog out where I was living in California.
Sure.
Just leave it at that. But it wasn't really, had a lot of phenomenal experiences out there, and it's a great place to learn, great place with all kinds of outdoor recreational opportunities, including duck hunting. But it's just not like here. And Kansas, it was growing up with the Blaze Orange Wave, the second weekend in November for quail and pheasant opener. And then you come here, it's just really, really clear. Yeah, deer hunting wins, right? This coming weekend, opening day of deer season, right? That's the big mobilization of force here in Arkansas hunting, right? There's more total people doing it. But the level of passion that people have for waterfowl hunting
as a cultural identifier,
it is your identity. And when we ask people about that over the years, are you a duck hunter? And so many people have that identity, have that personal identity as a duck hunter, even though they may not duck hunt every year. They identify as a duck. They have the bar-belly duck call. They've got the T-shirts. They've got all the gear, right? And they may only go once or twice every few years, but they still would tell someone if they asked, "Hey, are you from Arkansas?" Yeah. Are you a duck hunter? Yes, I'm a duck hunter. And it's really, it's there's absolutely no shame associated with that identity in Arkansas, which I think is phenomenal. I think it's why we're an outlier when you look at hunting participation trends across the country. That Arkansas is not. There is no decline in waterfowl hunters in Arkansas. We're holding our own, and you could dive deep in all the different reasons for that. But I really think that cultural acceptability and just social acceptance for that behavior and that lifestyle, it's got to be playing a role in why waterfowl hunting remains a very popular pastime. Now what we might be doing a little bit wrong, it's you want to be careful to talk about that and not pass judgment on anyone. But I do see folks. I wonder what the future looks like. Hunting out activities and fishing too. There's always been a competitive nature to it, right? I mean, bass tournaments have been around for how long? And that grew out of a bunch of bass clubs and bass anglers. Competition drives people. Mm-hmm. Competition adds some value to that activity. Adds a little bit of interest. I worry that the duck hunting culture is getting a little bit. It's leaning too hard that direction. That it's too much about the fight. It's too much about the conflict instead of about the bird or the resource. I always got to be real careful talking about that because I do not want to go into the whole, hey, when I was a kid crap. That stuff drives me nuts because I guarantee you when I was 10, 15, 20 years old, there were 40, 50, 60-year-old men grapping about me. So you got to be careful about that. But I hope the folks coming into waterfowl hunting really fallen in love with waterfowl hunting now are getting a chance to get a hold of the core values of that, which is the resource. You can get poetic, spending time in nature and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know about all that. Some people are driven by that, some aren't. But I think if there is anything that we're maybe not getting wrong, but are leaning towards a little bit too much of, it's the driven by competition thing. It's folks that if they rank, what drives them to go duck hunting on public land every day, if the competition part of it is at the top, I worry, when does that end, right? When does that stop driving people? And then when does that affect the overall waterfowl hunting culture and participation 30, 40 years from now? If that's what drives you, is that going to keep you driven when you're 50 years old and more tired than you are at 25? I don't know. So I hope it's not kind of at this fork in the road where people are driven by the competition more than the bird. But I also see those same people, like you were talking about those spec hunters, right? A couple guys that got the bar bellies. That individual had clearly, he gleaned enough about the culture and kind of the rites of passage of goose hunting to know how to kind of fit in, right? To become part of the hunt and not be, hey, you know what? I think I'm a better caller than this guy, so I'm going to outcompete him, right? He knew enough somehow, whether he learned it watching YouTube, hunting with buddies, whatever.
I mean, this dude he had grown up. These guys had all been duck hunting and stuff. They were talking about brushing and blind. So I mean, yeah,
he'd been around.
Yeah, he grew up in it. I tell you what, I kind of was thinking about is that, yeah, the guy who wants the race, right? Which is a phenomenon of Arkansas, the duck boat race. But the guy who wants that, the guy who wants to beat everybody more than he wants to work ducks, I think that what I see as it transfers into is the acquisition of private access, right? And like who you can keep out, right?
Yep.
And then it makes the access to the land and the resource such a coveted thing that it becomes a self-defeating enterprise, right? Because then it's just for me and just for mine. This, like the idea that you could door knock and get permission to go duck hunt when you see 100 mallards in someone's corner of someone's field is laughable in Arkansas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's getting hard probably lots of places.
It is.
But, I mean, especially in Arkansas, I mean, if you got a gun pulled on you, I wouldn't be surprised, right? Probably, too, because you're dealing with, like, some landowner or farmer, man, who's, I mean, they're getting inundated, right?
Every day, all day.
Non-stop. And now with, like, white geese, and you got folks coming down the week before, and because what's also entered this, right, is it's like, so if I'm going to say the things that aren't great about duck hunting, it's the competition aspect of it, it's the pugilism, and it's the economic incentives around it, right? And I don't begrudge anyone making money. I mean, hell, I'm involved in it. But, yeah, man, you start talking about thousands of dollars and wiener wagon rights, man, and like, I mean, there's been wars fought for less, right?
Yeah, it's we're all making a buck off the duck, you know,
Sure.
You, me, Max, whoever, right? But that was my job for a lot of years, and it's part of my job now, right? So I'm making a living off. I'm financially invested in wildlife as well, but I firmly believe that amongst all the challenges that people talk about for our pastime, our culture of hunting, it's privatization and exclusivity are the primary threats.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and I think it speaks to private land accessibility, like you were just talking about. But I think you kind of can, as an agency manager, biologist, manager, decision maker, man, it's really tough. These decisions about, you know, what to do on public land with hunter management are not as easy as a lot of folks would like to say they might be. But you can kind of sit back and think, well, yeah, it's public land. There is no problem with it's by definition not privatized. Right, because it's public land. Mm-hmm. Anybody can go out there anytime. But what you were alluding to, well, it can kind of happen because of this competitive nature where people are wanting to. Their primary objective each day on a hunt is to beat somebody else to a spot, to a group of birds, whatever it may be. Right?
Yeah, it's not. You can't just go out there with a riveted boat and a 5 horsepower motor, right?
No, it's like that kind of stuff is becoming less common, I think, unfortunately, if I put a value judgment on it. But there's still people out there who do work cooperatively with other hunters out there on public land for sure. They don't get the press, obviously. It's the bad apples that always get the press. But our agency has tried to deal with that over the years with what we've done with, years ago now, up in Northeast Arkansas on blinds and hole maintenance and things like that basically equated to privatization of public land. And we took pretty unpopular steps at the time to do away with that. We've been doing some evaluations, looking at hunter intercept surveys like the fish people do, creel surveys, right? You go talk to a hunter when they come out. And we've been interviewing a bunch of people over the years and trying to figure out, all right, duck hunter, what drives your satisfaction on that daily hunt? Do you feel crowded while hunting? And it's kind of fascinating because most people you would talk to and most people, get in the ear of our administration and me up there, it'd be the people who say, man, there's just too many people. It's crowded. There's just people around every tree. Like, this is bad. Y'all have to do something. And when we go out and conduct well over 1,000 interviews on Biometer or Black River the past several years, by and large, crowding is one of the least important factors to duck hunters when they leave that hunt. And that was it's a little bit of a mind-blown moment when you look at that and say, well, okay, well, wait a minute. This looks like a lot of people to me.
What is a primary concern for them?
Duck seen, duck shot. Like pretty much every other hunter survey done since the beginning of hunter surveys. Can I see ducks? Can I shoot ducks? That drives my satisfaction. Weather, water levels, crowding, that kind of stuff seem less important. We started talking about this stuff. Okay, what do we do with that? So I'm a public land duck hunter. I know that there's a lot of people out there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I feel crowded at times, but generally the general public's telling us that when we ask them immediately following their hunt, the crowd did not impact their hunt satisfaction that day. The interesting thing we're trying to get our heads around here moving forward is what does that mean about the hunter population we currently have using those WMAs?
Man, dude, you just
like
that's what my mind's going to.
So right, so we're having some conversations with our partners on the National Wildlife Refuge side right now. They're very interested in these questions. So we're surveying the people who are playing the game. Right, they're in it. They go to Biometer Black River every day. All the lights, all the neon LED, color, all that kind of crap is just normal to them, right? They just write it off. So you kind of mentally just put that behind you, I think, is what a lot of people are doing. They're just either they embrace it and they love it, or they're just checking it off as something that just has to be done to go duck hunting on Arkansas public land. And to his credit, our director asked when he came on board and we started sharing some of these results, he said, well, okay, that's what hunters are telling us, but are we just surveying a desensitized population? Like, we got a bunch of people out there that the current participants are the ones who are already, they've just resigned themselves to the fact that this is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But what about all those people who want to get in or who have left that we're not talking to at those boat ramps? And how do those people play into the past, present, or future of duck hunting in Arkansas? We know less about those people. It's always hard to gather the opinion of the non-participant, right? You can't get a hold of those people. You don't know how to reach them as well, or it's a lot more complicated. So we're having those conversations right now and seeing if we can't try to find a way to reach out to what we call, lapsed hunters. For example, people who don't hunt every year, who haven't hunted in several years. Coming down the road here a little bit, we may be trying to dig into that a little bit more and see, like, okay, have people actually been pushed out of it because of land access, because of de facto privatization or the impression of privatization on public lands, or the simple competition of it that just said, man, I'm out on this. I'm done. I'm not going to take somebody new to experience this because it's not a positive experience.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to take somebody. And we're in a place, we got plenty of duck hunters right now. Things are going well. That population's not declining. That's overall a good thing. But, what's the future look like? And I think we've always got to be aware of that. And that the competition, it's just got to be one of the biggest issues facing us right now. I mean, talk to a bunch of old timers on private land, and I say that's a term of endearment when I say old timer. That's not a judgment call here. Folks with a lot more experience than me, and talk about these odd areas on private lands, and just you can skip that over to how the ag landscape has completely changed in the past 20 or 30 or 40 years. And it used to be lots of contoured fields. Most of the ag fields are contoured, so most of those contoured fields would have a 5, 10, 20 acre bottom that would float up when it rained in December. And you'd be able to just go knock on the farmer's door, say, hey, you got ducks here. They're going to be here for 2 weeks while the water's in there. You mind if I go have a couple hunts?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure, go ahead.
Yep, go on. Because the farmer's not managing for it, so he's not leasing it.
Yeah.
Now, zero grade fields, laser leveled fields, you end up, which is great for water conservation, farming efficiency. There's lots of positives for doing that. I'm not at all here to critique any of those modern agricultural practices that have lots of agronomic benefits. But I think on our side of Game and Fish, we've got to be active in the conversation to say, all right, that's the way ag is moving. How can we play a role to help make sure that the wildlife habitat and even the hunting opportunities side of it stays on the landscape, given this changing ag landscape, right? You got all these fields that drain in 24 hours, and you don't have these odd a square leveled field, by design does not have any odd corners, little low spots in it. They're going to catch water, and maybe grow a few more weeds than the rest of the field. Maybe have some ducks after that 3-inch rain in December. It's just not out there anymore. at a landscape scale. So is that pushing more people to these public land situations where they don't have that casual spot? And I can grab 2 or 3 duck hunts a year. That's all I need. Mm-hmm. And I just got old Joe down the street who lets me go hunt.
And I don't have to have an enormous financial investment.
It's minimal. Like that's the kind of duck hunting that I grew up doing and loving. You know, a dozen and a half decoys. You hike
flambos or something.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The old flamboys, right?
Yeah, the big eyes. Yeah,
with the big eyes on them, look totally. On the big orange bill on the hens, right?
Yeah.
They looked ridiculous, but I don't know how many ducks. Well, all the ducks we shot were over those decoys growing up. That kind of just real low barrier to entry duck hunt is coming. It's harder and harder to come by.
Yeah, I mean, look, in Arkansas, look, it doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, I'm sure somewhere it does, but so I actually feel like I might be a little uniquely positioned to answer some of those queries. And I'm not saying you were asking me directly, but so one, I'd say that the competition aspect on public land is, I mean, so you got to understand this, right? Like I killed my first duck when I was 27 years old, right? In 12 years, I went from killing a shoveler in a weed field in Lone Oak to, like my identity kind of personally and professionally largely revolves around that sphere of waterfowling, right? Like I drank the Kool-Aid hard, right? Yeah. I went real deep into it, and that's probably enough said. But I can tell you that, I'll say this too. Also, like, when people started paying attention to me or someone asked me, write a little blog or something, right? Like the thing about barrier to entry that they always go to, right, is the fact that I'm not white, right? They're like, that's got to be the barrier to entry. And fair play, dude. Look, it's a barrier to entry for this, right? That is an added barrier to entry on all the other stuff, right? Like, I can't. It's hard to explain. And I bet you could probably, even if you didn't have the specific experience, you could get it. It's hard to explain to a lot of people how hard I had to want to duck hunt for me to get to the level within this sphere that I'm at, right? And I'll tell you this, man, I've not been in Bayou Mita in probably 7 years. And the last time I was in Bayou Mita, I had dudes 50 yards away from me raining steel shot down on me because they were going to set up where they were going to set up whether or not we were there. And I just got something to lose now, right? I got like a wife, I've got kids, like I'm not immune to being provoked into, shouting. So it's just like, man, I can't be involved in this. And I'm not saying that's every time. That's a rarity to get to that level. But I remember a few years ago, and this does it illustrates kind of the intellectual dilemma we're talking about a little bit. A few years ago, I was, I got the place up by Brinkley. So I was hunting some public land by Brinkley just by myself. It was just getting whooped. I mean, like not firing a shot for day after day, right? So I'm pulling my boat around. I put like 300 and something miles on my truck that day. And I was like hunting stuff in the cache, wasn't killing birds. I drove north and west and went to Ed Gordon, right? And scouted. And it was the day before the beginning of the second split. And I came in from one way, boated in, and walked in, and I found like 2,000 mallards, right? I was like, this is perfect. And then I heard something, and these two guys walked in from a different way, and they found the same birds same time, right? And so I go talk to them. I'm like, hey, man, you guys going to hunt these birds tomorrow? And they're like, yeah, we're hunting these birds tomorrow. I was like, just the two of you? Yeah. I was like, how about this, dude? How about instead of us fighting for these birds, let's trade numbers. Let's go hunt these birds together and have a good hunt, right? And it was like everything you want it to be. Like these guys were nice. They were cool. I had an outboard. One of them had a mud motor. I got up there. I was the second person in line. I held the spot and then swapped when they got there, and I took the back spot and let him have my spot because he could run this power line ditch and all this stuff, right? And we got to the spot. It all worked out. And then I watched these groups of, like college-age people set up in a circle around us.
All around you.
And they shot our swings to the point that, like, I was really getting irritated. I had to get my stuff and leave because I was thinking about walking up and saying something. And so I did, and I just left. But then back at the boat ramp. So that place in particular, there's like kind of it's probably the closest place to hunt ducks, like within a lot of colleges, right?
Oh, I've spent hundreds of hours at Ed Gordon.
Yeah.
I live in Conway.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, that's
so
kind
kids,
of my
they're coming from
WMA.
Conway and
Tech and UCA.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'll tell you what happened when I got back to the boat ramp. And so I was like talking to some folks that were there. One, everybody I met, like legit everybody I met at that ramp was super nice and super friendly. And it was really validating to see, like I was watching, 18-year-old dudes. They were hunting with decoys that, I'd give away to somebody, right? I mean, these were like shot up just beaters. They're out there with their buddies. They were having a good time. But I was complaining about people shooting my swings. And this one guy said, man, if a duck gets within 60 yards of me, I'm shooting at it. And he wasn't trying to be an a-hole about it. That's what his idea of duck hunting was. It wasn't to work ducks. It wasn't like I had a real obsession with being able to call ducks, right? And like getting good enough and then watching them react. Like I remember when I just shot birds that landed at the first 15 minutes of sunrise or sunlight. And then when I started being able to work ducks. And that wasn't part of it for him. It was just getting to kind of pull the trigger at it, right? And I don't think that any of those groups of people around us, I don't think there was malice in them. I think they felt like it was totally acceptable. And for them it was, and they weren't doing anything wrong and they weren't stepping on somebody else's hunt. And even me with just like 10 years of experience in it, it felt like I was being violated.
Oh yeah. I've been there. And it's all about the shot, And I argued good friends that I spent time with in school and work out in California and had that identical mentality that if there's a duck, I'll say within range, but they weren't within my range. It's all about the shot. And I actually had these arguments with people like, look, I want to win, right? I mean,
Sure.
It's not me at competition with me and the bird, but it's like turkey hunting. I mean, I don't want to walk up on a turkey and shoot it out of a tree if that's legal somewhere, and it wasn't where I grew up. But I don't want to creep down a ditch and pick up out of it and go shoot a turkey, right? I mean, I could do that all over pretty frequently in Kansas with incised creek drainages. I mean, it's pretty easy to sneak on a turkey out there. The game for me is the calling and getting that bird completely fooled. And I only shoot just because it's part of the experience, right? I mean, there's somebody who wrote a while back, you don't hunt to kill, you kill to have hunted or something like that. There's some author who wrote that a while back. Like that's kind of part of it for me with duck hunting. It's all about the experience of working birds, getting them in close, and yep, I'm going to shoot some, right? Because I like to eat them. I'm there to kill ducks unashamedly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a finality to it.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm there to do that, but like I'm not satisfied if I just shoot some duck coming over at 60 yards and never have any interaction with that bird except to just cross my airspace for a split second. But a whole bunch of people clearly, I don't think that's entirely new. I think it's just more common now, maybe, or more. Nash Buckingham was no duck caller, right? I mean, that guy got in the bushes and just pass shot ducks all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wasn't a duck hunter like you and I would think of as
Sure.
a duck hunter, right? So it's not brand new. And that's part of it. What I was trying to get at earlier, I think, is just without going to the whole kids these days argument. It's just how do folks get that experience of saying, you know what, there's something actually better here than just shooting a 3.5-inch shell at a bird 60 to 80 yards away because it passed over. Like there's something better that happens here if you spend a little bit more time interacting with that bird, perfecting the craft of calling, of hiding, which hell, nobody knows how to hide.
Dude, hiding's a huge part of it.
Nobody knows how to do that, and they think they're hidden, and they're not. Get up in an airplane and do duck surveys.
Dude,
for
I was
a while.
about to say, I mean, so you've actually done, and now everyone's doing drones, but I mean, you've been up in an airplane a million times. Like, I don't think people get what the little circle spot in the middle of your face looks like.
Oh, pie facing, man. Pie facing is real, and I started getting airsick, so I don't fly. I haven't flown in a while, but our guys who do, and I spent a bunch of hours up there. 10 years ago when I was actively doing all that stuff, and we used to joke like if you fly across the Delta, it would be. We generously put the number at maybe like 5 to 10% of setups would fool us from a quarter mile away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it doesn't get better as you get closer. It gets worse for the hunter, right? So from a quarter mile away, we're looking out at some setup and, lean to the pilot or just kind of get yourself ready. Like, oh, there's some ducks kind of up here that I'm going to need to count. It's literally, I mean, it's single-digit percentages of spreads that fool of us from that distance. 90% of the time, you just glance on the horizon. You look, there's a dude standing up. Mm-hmm. There's clear water in a rice field, no mud anywhere. There's no flock of, and you've got 24 decoys spaced 4 to 6 feet apart in a circle on either side of the rice levee. And it's gin clear water, right, which no real flock of ducks ever has clear water under their feet. And it's the little things like that nobody does. They're all standing around looking at you, the hunters, and it's like you don't even give it a second glance from a quarter mile away. It's that bad. Like, it is that obvious. If you fly around for a little while like that, you wonder how anybody kills a duck.
Yeah,
because it's so obvious. Now you can get away with a little bit more in the woods until you get closer, right? But until birds get closer. But no, it's all those little things that I wonder when that's gonna, people just having that opportunity to experience what I would call, the full combination of a duck hunt. When you have birds, in your face, like the shot is secondary. There is no great wing shooting needed to take a really committed duck.
Yeah.
I miss plenty, but it's not challenging. Like most duck hunting shots, if the ducks are finished, like the shooting really is not all that complicated, especially if you're in the woods.
Yeah, modified choke inside of 20 yards.
It's nothing, you know. It's all secondary to everything else that led up to that opportunity to pull the trigger. And it's just self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, well, if I don't shoot that duck at 60 yards, well, somebody else is. If I don't shoot at it now, that next group is, so why would I wait? Why would I try to do anything different? And then it just kind of snowballs on itself, where pretty soon you've got all the groups out hunting this area doing the same thing and never get a chance to experience something different. But you watch people do that on public land or on private land where there's no competition around them too, right?
Yeah.
They still behave the same way. And that's not drastically new. Man, I just would think with so many people being really using public lands these days. Duck hunting got cool, right? It was a robo-duck generation, the duck dynasty generation we talk about. Duck hunting got cool in 99, 2000. It got cool again with duck dynasty. Mm-hmm. Everybody wanted to grow big long beards and blow duck call and shoot at ducks too far, because that's what they watch these other dudes do, right?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. As a manager, you struggle with what to do with that, because you hear people. I lived in California, right? And my culture shock going out there was when I had this experience. I lived in Davis, which was just west of Sacramento, right across the Yolo bypass, which is probably one of I-80 that you probably drove across when you're headed to Sioux City Marsh. And there's a public area right there. And I got out of class one day and I thought, man, I'm just going to go out and scout this area, I grew up in Kansas. You just pull up at a parking lot in a wildlife area and you just go walk around.
Sure.
Any day of the week, whenever. I show up out there and they're asking me for a $13 handoff, like I'm supposed to pay them to buy a permit to go out and hunt that every day. I had my licenses, right? Mm-hmm. But nope, you need this. You need to pay us $13 for your daily pass. to go duck hunt. I said, well, wait a minute. Like, no, I'm just going to park the car and I'm just going to go walk around because I've never been here and I just want to get a lay of the land. I just want to scout. And he looked at me like I had three eyes. What do you mean scout?
Yeah.
You don't scout?
That was just a foreign concept, huh?
Yeah, they don't. That's not part of it, right? Because you hunt Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday on public land in California. That's it. And it's all permitted. It's all check stations.
Yeah.
Highly regulated. And I had some of the worst interactions with other hunters I've ever had in my life, including Arkansas. I had them in California, highly regulated, quotas on every square inch of the place every day, and had some absolutely horrible experiences with other hunters. So I sit here as a manager with those experiences, looking at the challenges we have in Arkansas. Well, tight regulations and quotas on everything sounds like a pretty easy, to some people, sounds like that's the easy win, right? You just do it by way, everybody can go out there and you may not get to hunt every day, but once you do, you're going to have a nice quality. We use this term quality a lot, which is, of course, in the eye of the beholder. And have a quality experience. It's just not that easy. It's not that simple. So we're wrestling with those ideas now about what would you do. And if hunters have been paying attention, pretty much every new tract of land we've bought over the past 15 years or so has some sort of limited permit access on it. So we haven't bought a ton of new ground, but the big one being Raft Creek, of course, over by Georgetown. And some other smaller tracts we bought over the years, those all have permitted limited access.
Or like the duck, like you're leasing that from the farmers.
Yep, same deal there, right? A quality hunt. The idea is to have an exclusive experience for one party of hunters, so they can have something different than the rat race of public land duck hunting. We're considering other regulations. We're going to go to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday hunting on Ed Gordon, starting 2023 season, right? To try to let some birds actually use that place and have a little bit more, hopefully, higher quality hunting. People seeing more ducks, right? We said duck seen and duck shot is what drives satisfaction. We're going to see if we can have some success, like at Raft Creek, where we've had limited day hunting for 20 years now. And
there's like Raft Creek's got like, you got to do like an internet draw.
You do.
There's usually there's like specific, they got like those kind of like specific spots or whatever.
Yep.
Until the water gets up. Man, I've driven the ditch down into Raft Creek like half a mile because it's so flooded up you can't even get there. That place is wild.
It's like a lake out there. Yeah,
dude,
on big water. A lot of birds.
Yeah, there were birds around. All right, so I know you got places to be, so we're gonna have to wrap this up here in a minute or two. But I was just thinking, I don't think we've done this, but this is not meant to be like a doom and gloom thing. I'm interested in having like real substantive conversations about waterfowling because it is something I think about a lot. The idea of, it being accessible to people. That's like personally important to me because truthfully, man, it is like hunting in general, but specifically hunting ducks. It was like a really transformative experience for me, I've had some, like really kind of reverent experiences out there doing it. And honestly, like I still prefer to hunt by myself, or like maybe just with one other person or something like that. Even as I've done like some kind of commercial stuff, like every year I've lowered the number of people that I take, right? Like I've got it capped at 5 people because I was able to see how it affected the experience for everybody. And for folks to get what I wanted them to get out of it, it can't be too many folks. But I would say that like my biggest hindrance to like what I'm doing or a part of what I'm doing is access to land. Like I've gotten to a point where I've got like a little bit of a profile, right? There's like people in the community, some people in the community know who I am. And what it cost me to be able to hunt 5 people 2 days for the weekend is astronomical. And that's doing like on a per diem basis. Trying to get an actual chunk of land that I can use like exclusively. Look, I'll be real honest with it. I haven't been able to do it effectively. Like not a good producing piece.
Right.
Now people will let you spend money on just leftovers, right? And sometimes you got to kind of take a wild swing and say like, I'll throw a little bit of money here and see if it turns into something. But I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, you could easily spend 6 figures.
Oh, easy.
For like a little duck club. And folks don't get that. And so, I field way more calls of people who want to come hunt than I can ever reasonably do, because then I've got to charge a price that cuts a bunch of people out, because I can't have somebody that's like, man, I borrowed a pair of waders and an 870 and I got $300 to hunt. Like there's nothing there. Like that would not get you a day of bad hunting in Arkansas. Right. So I truthfully, like, I don't know that there's an easy answer or even a satisfactory answer for everybody, because you can't blame a farmer for trying to maximize the amount of money they're going to make off a piece of property. You can't blame somebody for wanting to be protective of a scant resource, right? Or access to a scant resource. That's kind of human nature. We are way past, as a society, we are past the point of, like, another thing we didn't really touch on with this new, quote unquote, new generation, or just like, the last 20 years, is that our lives are much less private than they used to be. You know what I mean? So like you're part of the understanding of an accomplishment is being able to share it publicly with other people, like, with video or photography, right? You're not going to turn the tide back on that. So, yeah, I don't know what. I'm glad I don't have your job, because I don't know what the answer would be to this. I don't know that you're going to find an answer that's satisfactory to everybody. To me, obviously, the predominant concern needs to be the maintenance of the species, like their continued existence and hopefully ability to thrive. And I really am at the point to where, if people could have good duck hunts, and when I say good duck hunts, like they could see ducks, they could watch ducks work, they could like hear that splash, right? Mm. Like, I'd give it up if they were just like, Jonathan, you can't ever shoot another duck, but your kids will get to do that. I'd do it. And I don't know how you get more people to feel that way, but man, that's it almost feels like everything's got to crash and burn or something first.
Yeah, nothing we do is ever going to waver from the primary objective of sustaining waterfowl and the habitats they need. Right? That's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to keep plowing forward on that. The reality is, a lot of the other stuff, the human management side of it, is, there's a lot more wiggle room, a lot more flexibility in what that means. Like, you can do a lot of things with managing people that probably don't have a measurable impact on the resource. So that's good, right? That means we've got a lot of room to work within our primary non-negotiable objective of waterfowl and the habitats they need to maintain. Mentorship is so big, and just introducing people to those experiences. You hear a lot about, well, man, these guys these days just don't have anybody, never been taught the right way. A lot of, kids these days, they haven't been mentored. Nobody showed them the right way to do it. And I'm as guilty as anybody. It's like, well, have you taken the time to mentor them? Like, who are they going to learn from?
Yeah.
And you get a lot of old crusties out there talking about kids these days, but are you willing to take the time to, politely, hopefully constructively help provide that guidance for certain people? And I don't know, because it's weird, because nobody should be expected to have to do that for like just totally for altruism, right? I mean, you shouldn't. That's a deeply connected thing. Being somebody's mentor in an activity, especially like hunting, it's a deep commitment, really, to do it right. It takes a lot of time, a lot of.
That's a really good point that I think a lot of this R3 movement misses. You're giving something of yourself.
You have to. If it's going to win, if it's going to be successful, there is so much of. You give away so much of yourself to do it right. A one-off teaching somebody how to do a particular task associated with hunting is not that complicated. You can teach somebody to shoot. You can teach somebody can watch YouTube and learn how to blow a duck call.
Yeah.
It's all the intricacies of it. Like, what is a duck that's in range? What is a duck that's actually finished? How do you behave around another group of hunters? And hey, they're up here. By the way, you're not going to set up within a few hundred yards, like several hundred yards downwind of them. That's off limits. Like, you just do not do that, right? That's the kind of stuff that takes a serious time investment and an emotional investment, right? You have to sacrifice your own hunts, your own opportunities to do that.
That limited time that you have for it.
Yep, you've only got so much, and it's not wrong for somebody to want to focus on themselves during that time. So I don't know what that looks like. Like, as a state agency, are we the ones who should be like carry that burden? We don't have that many people to go out and mentor tens of thousands of new duck hunters, right? It's always been this hunters, all caps or capital H, whatever, have always mentored each other. Like, it's grown and maintained from within itself, not somebody coming from the outside, teaching somebody to do a particular hunting activity. Like that. That's not the way the hunting culture maintained itself, I don't think. And so who plays that role? I don't know. And I think maybe baby steps toward that are things we're doing, like with W. Rice, with a few of these permitted waterfowl hunts on W. Mays. If we can get a few people to have those experiences that we hope would be, over time, would be an opportunity where people would look at that and say, well, wait a minute. I'm not in a race. I'm not in a competition with anybody else today. And at least have that opportunity to have a different frame of mind. Say, I can approach this day's duck hunt differently than when I'm going on a Saturday at Ed Gordon or during Christmas break at Biomeda, right? Yeah, I can reframe my mind to have a different experience. We've got to balance that with the reality that we got a whole bunch of people who want places to go.
Yeah.
And you can't go in, and you hear a lot of talk about this, the big ones, right? Biomeda, Black River, it's going to a draw next year. It's going. I don't know. I've heard that at least 10 of the 16 years I've been here, that next year it's going to a draw. And I said, well, those recommendations probably would come through me originally, and those recommendations don't exist. So I don't know where you heard that, but that's not coming. You kind of got to walk that line of showing people what another way looks like, but then also providing that opportunity to maintain folks' ability to just participate at all. And we're not alone. There's lots of folks moving through this kind of weird time in waterfowl hunting and all types of hunting right now. We know access and time are the biggest things driving hunting participation or the lack thereof. But access with a negative experience maybe not be access at all.
Yeah.
Right. So what does that get us in the end? So we do need to take a leadership role, but I really do believe, it's hunters themselves who have to embrace the need for mentorship, who have to kind of show the way for other folks, show the way. Yeah, you're not putting the genie back in the bottle. If it's not on Instagram, it didn't exist. And how many people are shooting 60-yard ducks so they can make sure they can have something for a picture later, right?
Yeah.
And if they wait and try to finish ducks, man, I might have one hen spoonie in the picture, man. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah.
But if I shoot a bunch and can pile up a bunch of bodies, picture looks really good. And that's a I mean, that's a psychological thing going on. That's way past my mentality.
You're talking about the hearts and minds, the ability of a state-run organization to control the hearts and minds of people and what they find fulfilling and how they culturally identify, and tribalism versus, oozers, out-of-staters, outsiders, all this other stuff. Yeah, I know. I think, dude, that's probably a good place to kind of like have some final thoughts, because I think there's a lot of well-intentioned folks out there in the hunting community right now. There's a lot of kind of more publicly centered like R3 initiatives. You've got organizations. There's kind of been, like, the last few years, there's been all these kind of hunter advocate organizations popping up, as well as older, more established advocacy organizations kind of, trying to bring new people in the fold, like urban folks, or DEI and all this other stuff. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if you want to get people that are going to be hunters and be hunters for their whole life and have it be something that's important for the people that are important to them to have some sort of association with, you've got to let people have to have the opportunity to experience some of the magic and some of the romance and the stuff that keeps you coming back. Like, no one is hunting ducks because it's a cost effective or effort effective way to feed your family, right? Like, I get a lot more opportunity than most people to feed ducks and geese to my family, and it's still not cost effective for me to do it. Right?
It doesn't pencil out.
No, but I think diversifying where the value is. So value in the places, value in the people, value in the traveling that can come with it, value in the extension of craft, whether that's learning to blow a call, whether that's making a call, whether that's making a decoy, whatever. I think it, for me, a big part of it is the actual culinary potential in this stuff. Like, and I kind of go to an extreme. Like, I was talking to these dudes the other day about, like, man, you got to do it all season long, but you can save these tongues up, man, and then, like, dredge them in cornmeal or cornstarch and fry them, and they taste just like a chicken wing tip, right? But it's like it's a lot of effort for a little bit of reward.
Right.
But if you stack all those layers on it, it's a wholly satisfying enterprise. It's like the definition of something that's holistic, right? But yeah, people have to, like, you got to get one good timber hunt a year. One good timber hunt a year will keep me going for the rest of my life.
That's a fact.
I mean, that's everything. That's beauty and romance and excitement and sex appeal and just like the heavens open. I mean, it's everything, right? One of those a year will keep me going. And I'll put up with, the indiscretions of others. The rolling up of windows when you pull into a parking lot instead of, hey, like, none of that, hey, how's it going? And I don't know what the answers are. And truthfully, I'm glad I don't have to come up with the answers. But, I think instilling, or just us all remembering that we have, like, this personal responsibility to occasionally center the best parts of ourselves and the best parts of hunting as a pursuit or an enterprise, like to center that in our intentions at least some of the time, so that we don't end up talking about hunting as this thing that used to happen.
Absolutely. I think there's value in just having the conversation openly. I think a lot of folks want to, complain within their circle of friends about what's wrong with the world today, whatever the subject matter might be. It might be public land duck hunting, but being willing to just talk about solutions openly. And over time, I think people hear that. Mm-hmm. I think, the instant ability to share, almost instant ability to share information these days can be seen as a problem, but I think it also can be an advantage for us as well, right? People hear stuff, word spreads quickly. I think being willing to talk about issues like this and not back away from them and not say, yeah, everything's great, license sales are great, and that's what matters. But to talk about the future of the pastime here and talk about, hey, are we at a, what does hunting need to look like now to persist into the future, and what do folks, entering the pastime now need to learn without projecting our own, real detailed values or anything on anybody else, but just like the general big picture, like, hey, what's sustained hunting for so long to get us to this point? And why are we sharing these stories? Why are we sharing a picture of 80 ducks on a log, presumably and allegedly in Biomeda, right? I mean, why are we doing that? Hunters' storytelling has been part of the hunting culture since the beginning, right? But why are we telling that story? Like, is it to share, like, man, this was a phenomenal day in the woods and we had hundreds of ducks breaking through the trees and landing all around us? Or is it that we got 20 dudes lined up in a hole and just shot the hell out of every duck that came by so we could get 80 of them on a log? Like, why are we telling that story? What's the real story behind the story? And I kind of have a critical thought about why we're doing that, and what's the real driver of our participation. I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic about it, actually. I mean, a lot of people get pessimistic about these sorts of things, but I try not to be. I think there's a lot of potential for. I think the pastime's gonna continue here. I think it's. I think we're probably just in another phase, like a bunch of phases we've seen over the years. I wasn't here in the late 90s, early 2000s, but people talked about that being a just absolutely crazy time, and it was ridiculous and too many people. And
that was a big changeover from like the public land guiding days to you couldn't do that.
Exactly. So, maybe we're just in another cycle.
I mean, look, you know what? And I do think so. And I've said this a million times, but I think it actually is part of the inherent nature of waterfowling. Like, you're dealing with something that by its very nature and design is supposed to be ephemeral.
Yep.
Right? It cannot exist in the same place in the same way all the time, right? And that is a big part of the attraction of it to me and other folks that are really kind of in love with the riddle of it, right? They're in love with the waterfowling. To me is really a pursuit of potential, right?
It is.
And so, yeah, I do think it will swing around. That doesn't necessarily, I don't think it's going to be an easy swing around. I don't think it's going to be an easy comeback. I'll go ahead and say, man, like, the Mississippi Flyway is different than it was 10 years ago when I started. I do not think it's getting easier to learn how to or enter into duck hunting in Arkansas. That doesn't mean that it's over. It means that it's harder for some reasons right now, and like, everyone wants to blame the person right above them. Everyone wants to blame the person before them, man, hot cropping and this and that. And the truth is, you could talk for 10 hours about what's going on and still not really have a consensus, right? So again, I think this is an instance where you're dealing with something that is so large, so multifaceted. It's probably best to sweep our own side of the street, right? And like really kind of hone in and focus on our own, our own microcosms. That's the people we hunt with. That's the people that we take hunting. That's the way that we hunt, and the intention that we hunt with. But yeah, man. Hey, I think there's been a good waterfowl conversation, Luke.
It's been fun. No, I appreciate you doing it. It's that ephemeral nature. That's what drove people to this. And what's really fascinating in waterfowl, and we talk about this on the waterfowl science side, is that for such a kind of a not fleeting, because we've had relatively good waterfowl populations for quite a while now, but it's really interesting that we are on for an ephemeral resource, it's been pretty dang stable for about 25 years, right? Seasons have been stable. Opportunity, if you equate that to days available to hunt, right? And there's layers to that we're not going to peel back right now. But like, as far as we're in an era now of the longest period of the most days available to hunt, highest bag limits. We are in that era right now and have been we're in the longest era of that since in modern times, let's say.
Yeah.
60-day seasons here, for 25 years. I think that's playing a role. I think most people hunting these, most by meaning just a simple majority, let's say, don't have any idea what a 30-day duck season and a 3 mallard bag is going to do, right? Nobody's experienced it. Most people out there hunting today have not experienced that. I got hooked on it when I could go out and if I shot one hen mallard by accident, I'd unload my gun for the day.
Yeah.
That's when I got hooked on waterfowl hunting. 2 greenheads if I picked my shots well and picked drakes with, a few weekends to hunt in the Central Flyway. I don't remember what it was, 39 days maybe. We're in a different era right now, and you just wonder if the reset button is a potential change in the very structure where people become, through no fault of their own, have never had the opportunity to experience what scarcity really looks like. We talk about scarcity now, man. There's not as many ducks come, and they're harder to hunt. Harder to hunt part is definitely true. Most people here haven't actually experienced scarcity in the waterfowl resource. Like when we think about it over a 100-year time horizon, we're in a time of plenty for waterfowling right now, and thousands of people have been recruited during that time of plenty. And you just kind of wonder what's coming next if we ever get to this point where populations do take a major nosedive and regulations respond to that. What's that mean to these folks? Are they still engaged? Are they still as active?
They're fair weather. You
think they're gone, right?
You know that's the answer. They're fair weather.
Probably so.
And here's what I've been hollering for the last 5 years, and I probably don't have a right to holler it. Shorter seasons, fewer birds, people that still will find it to be an activity they want to pursue will stay in it, and a lot of the chaff will float away.
Believe you're correct.
and I've also said this. I think that's not going to happen until it gets rough. You know what I mean? It's just the way human beings work. They're not going to be proactive on it. I think Game and Fish is actually doing a pretty good job of trying to be proactive about stuff, but without opening up a thing, but like the GTR, the whole GTR thing, man, and the water on the trees. You know what I mean? Like that's been a problem. As biologically and scientifically, we've known that's been a problem. And you try and make any change to something, like the only way to accept it is to get it ramrodded through, because folks will come out of the woodwork and just fight you tooth and nail on something until it's gone. And then they want to be mad at you that it's gone. And that's not Game and Fish and Arkansas. That's just people,
I know.
Right?
That's people.
But anyway, so hopefully everybody has a good waterfowl season. I'm still optimistic. It's very, very dry right now. But, man, I'll tell you what, dude. If you know where there's water, or you can put some water on some stuff, it's probably going to be a pretty good opening weekend for you. So, I hope everybody has at least one good timber hunt this year. And, Luke, thanks so much, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening all the way through to this episode of the Black Duck Revival podcast. As always, it's produced by me, Jonathan Wilkins, and Brian Sachs. Keep up with what I'm doing, new stuff, food I'm cooking, articles I'm writing, all of that kind of stuff over on Instagram. The handle is Black Duck Revival. You can go to the website, that's blackduckrevival.com. The podcast is on all major platforms. And if you enjoy this podcast, please help us out. Tell a friend, tell an acquaintance, tell an enemy. Let folks know what you like about the podcast, and maybe give them a little gentle nudge in the direction the next time they've got a long drive to give the podcast a listen. Any help in that regard is greatly appreciated. Thank you for the 5-star ratings on Apple And thank you for the taking the time, those of you who have taken the time to just write a short review. That helps tremendously. So, again, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Until then.